It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We have 3 undefeated squads left in the NHL, so Steele and I got to take a look under the hood at who's hot, who's not. Vegas Golden Knights, Colorado Avalanche, Boston Bruins, who is the best of the 3, and of course, Keeper League trade breakdown. Steele's got some proposals that you need to know about, big-time bets. Thank you for joining us for the Thursday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're still reeling from that frozen frenzy, but we're all kinds of fired up on the Thursday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Man, that was an exciting night of NHL hockey on Tuesday, Steele. Wednesday, only one game. We're back with 11 on tap for Thursday, but there's a lot going on around the league, and there's a lot going on in our listener leagues. There's some interesting proposals flying around. I'm excited for Waiver Wire Monday. I've made some interesting waiver moves. Stay tuned for Monday's episode, of course. But today I'm going to take a look at some of the proposals coming your way. I don't know what you've got going on. I'm excited to take a look at that. And most importantly, perhaps what we're going to kick the show off with. 3 undefeated squads, one much to our chagrin in the Boston Bruins, but the Vegas Golden Knights, Colorado Avalanche, and the Bruins flexing their muscle early. And what's interesting to me, Steele, and we're going to take a look at who's hot and who's not on both of these teams, is how they're all getting it done in somewhat different manners. The Boston Bruins are getting it done on the anchors of Linus, Ullmark, and Jeremy Swayman. Vegas Golden Knights, some heroics at end of games, and the Colorado Avalanche are just blowing the doors off of people, and Alex Georgiev is standing on his head. I'm going to turn it right over to you. Whatever team you want to talk about, I'm good to. But I think what's intriguing here is, as a fantasy GM, you're going to want to catch a piece of one of these teams, at least somewhere, if not all 3, if possible.
And that's exactly what I said on Monday for Monday's waiver wire targets when I was talking about William Karlsson. You want a piece of what's going on in Vegas right now. Obviously, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, but everyone is producing offensively, not just the offensive group, but also on the defensive side of things. And that's where I want to start off with my hot player for the Vegas Golden Knights. But first off, like you said, Vegas Golden Knights undefeated, 7-0-0. They've got the second best goal differential in the NHL right now at plus 15, 28 goals for, 13 goals against. So, Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson are getting it done in the crease. But I want to start off with one of the hottest players right now for the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's Shea Theodore, a guy who I've been very keen on over the last couple of months, especially for this draft. Just looking at what he was able to do last year, obviously he was injured for a portion of the season, but still had 41 points in 55 games last year, 52 points in 78 games the year before that, and he started off hot. 2 goals, 5 assists, for 7 points in the first 7 games. He's got 21 shots on net, 9 blocks, 3 hits. He's getting it done across all categories right now. He's also a +7 in the first 7 games too. So obviously the Vegas Golden Knights are just steamrolling through teams. They haven't had the hardest schedule to start off the new NHL season, but nevertheless, they are undefeated. And part of the biggest reason of that, a lot of guys, we pretty much throw the entire team in there, but Shea Theodore on the back end is getting it done because Alex Pietrangelo has missed a couple of games or more than a couple of games. He's only played 2 games so far to start the year, and Shea Theodore has really stepped up in a big way for the Golden Knights.
George McPhee, front office savant, really puts together a solid team in this Vegas Golden Knights. We've talked about this, but look at the balanced scoring attack as well, Steele. That's what's really impressed me, aside from both Hill and Thompson doing their thing. The blue line is very balanced. Eichel, 8 points. Karlsson, 7 points. Chandler Stevenson, good start to the year, 7 points. Then Theodore with 7. Mark Stone with 7. Cotter with 5. They're spreading it out. I really do like what Shea Theodore has done. Also, 33 seconds left in the game the other night. Potts the game winner. This is what happens, though, when you have a team in the Vegas Golden Knights that's built bottom up and they're starting to really, really gel. It's interesting, though, how Ivan Barbashev, we talked a lot about him. I know 2 goals and it's early. I'd like to see a little bit more from him if we're talking about guys starting a little slower. Yeah. But this is his game, I think, Steele, right? He really seems to come alive in the back end of seasons, especially lately in the postseason. I'm not ready to count him off at all. 2 goals is still 2 goals. But if there was anyone I'm looking at on the cold side, it would be him. But that's just my take on things.
That's perfect take, because I also have Ivan Barbashev on the cold side of things. 2 goals in 7 games, especially for the guy who doesn't really get a lot of playing time. Only 15 minutes of average ice time so far in the first 7 games for Barbashev. We knew that was up a couple of minutes last year in the playoffs, and he really excelled in that new role for Vegas. But yeah, you expect this type of thing. 2 goals from Ivan Barbashev. He's got 12 hits, 3 blocks, 10 shots on net. There's nothing wrong about this whatsoever. 6 penalty minutes, so you're getting the banger league beauty out of him too. But again, we're nitpicking for the Vegas Golden Knights.
Of course,
they're an undefeated team, so we're just throwing a name right there who could be doing a lot better, but is also still producing in the offensive all around the ice. Let's get over to the Boston. Actually, let's stay in the Western Conference. Let's move over to the Colorado Avalanche. 6-0-0 on the season, undefeated. They are the best team in the league for goal differential at plus 16 right now. 28 goals for, 12 goals against, and man, the top 2 lines in Colorado, and then you throw in Georgiev and Cale Makar. This team is lethal. And again, this team's been without their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, for over a year now. And we don't know if when he's going to come back, or if he's going to come back and be fully healthy in that situation. But Mikko Rantanen might be one of the most underrated players in the NHL.
I'm going to say he's the most underrated.
I think he might be the most underrated player in the NHL. We talk at length on Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Austin Matthews, a few other players you could throw out there as well. But Mikko Rantanen does not get enough love for what he brings to this Colorado Avalanche team. So got to throw his name in the hat right there.
Yes.
But the hottest player right now, who had a big night last night or a couple of games ago as well, that's Ryan Johansson. Ryan Johansson really stepping up for the Colorado Avalanche. He's got 4 goals, 1 assist on the season, so 5 points in 6 games. 2 blocks, 2 hits, 15 shots on net. You're not going to see a ton of the peripheral stats, but nevertheless, if he's scoring and he's helping his teammates score as well, then that's really all that matters when it comes to Ryan Johansson, because you're not going to get a lot of shots on net. You're not going to get a lot of blocks. You're not going to get a lot of hits. And most likely, you're not going to get a ton of penalty minutes either. But I've really liked what I've seen so far in the last 3 games from Ryan Johansson.
100%. And just to touch on the Rantanen point, I got lucky with Rantanen, and I think that's in our casual league, Steele. I'd have to look it up.
Yes, I think
it's in our casual league, and he has just gone beast mode. And when you take a look at, and I know, again, all of this chat that we are going to have over even the next week or 2, it's still going to be only a month into the season, if that. So let's remember all of that. But so far, Jack Hughes, 14 points. Dylan Larkin, 14 points. Alex DeBrincat, 13 points. Everyone's talking about those 3, I would say, for the most part. And right there with 12, Mikko Rantanen. So there you go right there with that angle on the underrated side of things, because I really do think, and not many people are having a look at this, but perhaps we should be having a look at Alexander Georgiev a little bit deeper, Steele, because right there on the hot side, for me, he's definitely there. And last year, he led the league in wins with 40. He's 6-0 with a 1.98 goals against and a .930 save percentage and a shutout. He is feeling it right now. $3.7 million salary cap hit is an absolute steal for a guy who's putting up 40 wins and these kinds of heaters to start the season. Also, very quickly, before we go to break or before you have any more takes, I saw a very couple of interesting stats, and one on Georgiev. Georgiev becomes the 8th goalie in NHL history to win each of his team's 6 games to start a season. That's 8 of them. And also, the next one I got for you is actually on the Boston Bruins. But why don't we talk about them right after the break, if you're good with that?
Yeah, we'll talk about them after the break, and I'll make this real quick. Just the coldest player on the Colorado Avalanche right now. That's Jonathan Drouin, who I was talking a little bit about, or actually I was talking frequently about during the offseason and leading up to the draft, playing on that top line with Nathan McKinnon. They had some chemistry back, throughout their younger NHL career stage. And got an assist in the first game. He's gone scoreless the next 5 and just has not been producing. He gets dropped down to the third line, so he's not even on the top line anymore. He's playing with Ross Colton and Miles Wood on that third line on the right wing side, and he's rostered right now at 11%. He's down 5% from last week, and I would honestly just say at this point, if you've got Jonathan Drouin, if he's on your roster, cut him loose. It doesn't seem like he's going to be, getting going anytime soon from what I can see. The way he's playing with Ross Colton and Miles Wood right now.
Ross Colton also on that cold list. Miles Wood, they're going to need some third line love if they're going to prolong this kind of hot streak. That's just going to run out up top. It's going to happen. Rantanen can't put up 4 and 5 point nights every single night. I would put them both on that list on the cold side of things, Steele. And at the end of the day, there are going to be a number of these Western Conference teams nipping at the heels for the Stanley Cup. Vegas and Colorado, one of them. Boston, are they going to have what it takes to hang in all season long? We'll talk about that right after the break, Steele, because today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, trust Steele and I when we say there's no better time to get in on the action. We've been loving the same game parlays. Frozen Frenzy action the other night was crazy. All kinds of special bets you can all find on FanDuel. And the app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your favorite team from all 4 major sports leagues, including the NCAA, your team every single day. Not our team, but they're on fire right now. The Boston Bruins are making us eat our crow again.
Yes.
The second straight year. Start off the season undefeated, 6-0-0. They're actually the 4th best team in the league right now for goal differential at plus 12, 19 goals for, 7 goals against. 7 goals against in 6 games. That's absolutely absurd. Yeah. Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman are the best duo, best tandem in the NHL right now. And I still think Linus Ullmark might be the best goalie the way that he's playing. It's close. You know, a lot of people are fan favorites of Jeremy Swayman and think that eventually he's going to get there, and eventually he will. And I respect it, but the way Linus Ullmark's playing, he's only 30 years old.
He's got the Vezina, pal.
He's got the Vezina.
People need to maybe have a look.
They got to take a look at the stats there. But nonetheless, let's get back to the Boston Bruins and undefeated season so far. Do you want to kick us off?
If you don't mind, I just have a couple of quick tidbits that I've been jonesing to get off here and I've been forgetting. The Frozen Frenzy, very quickly, Steele, and I just we'll chat about that maybe another episode because I thought it was a really good start.
Yeah.
I think the NHL has a lot to work on in general. By the way, thank goodness they came around on the Pride tape debacle. That was a mess as well. Anyway, very quickly, 16 games on Tuesday, 102 goals for a total average of 6.4 goals per game, 93 different goal scorers. First goal of the night was at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and the last goal of the night, Steele, just for fun, 1:45 a.m. Eastern time by Shea Theodore. And to end our point on Colorado, that was the last one, and then we'll be back to the Bruins, I swear. Taking a look at how good they've been on the road. Yeah. Regular season road win streak is now the highest in NHL history. 15 straight on the road. Just another tidbit for those Avs. But the Boston Bruins, man, holy cow. The Bruins tied their longest franchise record for season opening win streak since 1938. You and I, eating crow again. Who are you looking at? Who's hot? Who's not? Because this kid, Poitras, is looking real nice.
Well, I'm going to start off with him, but first, I do got to just say this out there. You know, the Boston Bruins have not had the hardest
toughest
schedule. Yeah, correct. It's been pretty light for them. They've played Chicago twice, Nashville once, Sharks once, the Kings once, and they're going to be playing the Ducks this Thursday, actually. So
wow,
they're going to be playing the Ducks twice in 1 week as well, within a span of 5 days. So very easy schedule for the Boston Bruins so far. But nevertheless, Matthew Poitras, this kid who I had never heard before starting the season, second line center now, rookie for the Boston Bruins. He's got goals in back-to-back games. Back-to-back games, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4-point total in 6 games. Again, I'm not going to expect a ton of peripherals from this player. 11 shots so far, which is great. 3 blocks and 0 hits. So I'm not going to be expecting much on the peripheral side of things. But if he can keep this up and get Jake DeBrusk into the game a lot sooner, the second line for the Boston Bruins is very young. Morgan Geekie, Matthew Poitras, and Jake DeBrusk. This is a new looking center. I don't hate it. Line, and I don't hate it so far. Again, didn't know anything about this kid, but he is he's living up to what the Boston Bruins have been, Boston Bruins identity and what they've been for the last couple of years. So Matthew Poitras is the guy who's hot right now on my cold list. This is a guy who I'm even debating about dropping at this point. I probably will drop him. I'm not sure if I can, but that's Hampus Lindholm. Guy's been absolutely invisible.
Called that one last year.
Yeah, you did. And he has been, I don't even think he's playing. I don't even think he's playing anymore. He's got 0 points in 6 games. He is a +3. He's got 4 penalty minutes, but 12 shots, 9 blocks, 1 hit. Peripherals are okay, but what is going on right now with Hampus Lindholm? So for me, he's on the cold list. He's probably going to be getting the boot soon.
Hampus Lindholm was one of those players that if you actually spent some time watching how he played in Anaheim, which obviously is difficult for the majority of East Coast hockey fans and media, he isn't an offensive first player. He's just been really solid and quite lucky over the last couple of years, in my opinion, to be benefited from playing on a really good Boston Bruins team. He's just not an offensive guy, and he got really built up, and he is a good defenseman. I'm not taking away from that, but fantasy-wise, it was really hard for me to get invested in him overly when I saw his come up and what I expect from him, and this is right back to it, Steele. I think he's more of a 25, 30-point maximum kind of a guy, and he fills out the peripherals a little bit, but look at what happens when he's off to a slow start. Those peripherals aren't enough to keep him, and I'm with you. I think I'd be dropping him as well, but very quickly, what's interesting about this Boston Bruins rise, and I said how I think Vegas, Boston, and Colorado are doing their undefeated streaks kind of differently, is look at Boston. Obviously, it's been the goaltending, but they're second in penalty kill. I think they've only allowed 1 power play goal. They're clicking at 96% on the PK. But when you look over at the offensive side, and this is where I think it might run dry on them because, it's working right now, but they're scoring and winning games 3-1 and 3-0. Going up against some of these run and gun teams in that Atlantic, their 3 goals is not going to cut it if those goalies start to fade a little bit, even a little bit. And when you look at the rest of their numbers, Steele, and I swear I'm done after this, goals for, they're down in the league. I think they're like 16th or 15th. And then you look at the power play, I believe they're even worse off. Boston is 22nd in the league on the power play. These offensive numbers will catch up with them if those goalies start to fade even a little bit.
That's definitely something to keep an eye out for. They got to get the offensive production going, especially against these weaker teams. 3 goals a game is not going to cut it against the Toronto Maple Leafs or even the Ottawa Senators, especially those Florida Panthers,
Red Wings,
the Atlantic Division rivals that they're going to go up against who they have yet to face. So definitely a good point there, Flip. This actually is a great transition into some of these mock trades or potential trades that could happen. They haven't happened yet, but I was thinking about this last night. So I'll make it real quick. I've got 2. I'll say one of them now, and I'll save one of them for after the break. But the first one was actually a DM on Twitter from one of our listener league participants for his other keeper league. So not one of our leagues, but for his other league with his buddies. He sent me this. He sent it over Twitter today, and was saying, "Would you accept this trade, Roman Josi for Jeremy Swayman?" So he would be getting Jeremy Swayman. He would be giving up Roman Josi. I told him, I was like, do you need Jeremy Swayman? Who are your goalies? He has Alexander Georgiev and Aiden Hill.
I would not be moving him then.
Absolute studs. I was like, if you don't need Jeremy Swayman and you've got Georgiev and Hill, I would be going with those guys because Josi is an absolute stud. So I know Nashville has been kind of up and down with their games lately, and Josi's kind of been not the same so far this year, but I would not be giving up Josi for Jeremy Swayman. And I know it's a keeper league, and I know there's an age difference.
Okay.
I know there's an age difference, and I would still, because he has Georgiev and Aiden Hill, I would be keeping Josi.
And very quickly before we get to break, we'll come back and talk about another trade. All I got to say is the starts that both Georgiev and Aiden Hill are off to.
Yeah.
I don't want to move on from either of them in any style of league right now. Even if someone came to me in a year-to-year league to try and pry one of those guys off, they're on the two best teams in the league who are undefeated, and both goalies have crazy good numbers and have looked sensational as well. Just it passes the eye test. The only angle here, Steele, is maybe fast forward to the end of the season, and let's say your team, for some reason, with Georgiev and Hill not performing, you've fallen out of it, and you're trying to play the long game here by bringing in a younger goalie in Swayman who might be that number one in Boston in a year or two, and you're trying to play that long game. Maybe you make that deal, but otherwise, I'm staying pat with what I have because things are going too well to move on from goalies right now.
Don't need to fix anything if it ain't broke. That's what I always go back to. We're going to get to another mock trade and then, of course, our big-time bets. But, of course, this episode is also brought to you by Jace Medical. This episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you the peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication on hand, and Jace Medical is just very simple to use. You go online, fill out the form, and then you get prescription life-saving medications right to your door. The Jace Case gives you peace of mind, and they pretty much handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off using code LOCKEDON at checkout. JaceMedical.com. That's JASE Medical.com. Promo code LOCKEDON.
The NHL season is here, and the best way to find all the insights and reactions for every team all season long is with Locked On NHL. Don't miss a second of the season. Available every day for 30 minutes on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe. Hit the follow button, and leave a 5-star review. I got a frog in my throat right now.
Deal, that's a mouthful as well. Shouts to Jace Medical.
That's a lot going on. Jace Medical. There's a lot going on there, so make sure you hit up JaceMedical.com. Promo code Locked On. But last mock trade before we get to big time bets, I'll make this real quick. All 3 of these players in this potential trade, I haven't sent it out yet. They all come from the Atlantic Division. They're all original 6 teams, and they're all rivals. I was thinking about this last night. Would you accept the trade? So I would be giving up these 2 players for this one player. Would you accept the trade of Jake DeBrusk and Lucas Raymond for John Tavares? In a keeper league too. Keeper league.
So this is interesting because you actually, when I made that deal for Joseph Wall to move up in the draft, I chopped John Tavares in a second for Drew Doughty in the first, and I moved up to get Wall. So far, I think it's working out both ways for both players because Drew Doughty's got a couple of assists. He's chipping in right now, fantasy keeper-wise. He's actually pretty solid. Anyway, I got away from Tavares because I was expecting a decline to start this season, and clearly that's been wrong. And you know I've been on here in terms of just regular on-ice play and performance. Fantasy aside, I've been a big supporter of John Tavares, and I'm not here for the Johnny T hate. So to bring it back to a long answer, really long, Steele, I actually would hold on it. Do you have John Tavares? Is that what you're saying?
I have DeBrusk and Raymond. I'm thinking about moving them for John Tavares. And that's why I came to you, because I know you traded John Tavares earlier this year before the season started.
Well, I think I was wrong in doing so in terms of his production. I know I got Wall, I got Doughty. It worked out. But I like your angle here, trying to pry a guy in Tavares off of, you can see in his face right now, Steele, and I know this isn't intangible, and I know this is just me talking, and reel me in here if it's whack. I think John Tavares has a little fire in his belly this year. He took a lot of heat over the last couple of years in Toronto, and as much as he's a very even-keeled individual and a very quiet leader, he's been taking receipts, and he lives in Toronto. He's a Toronto boy. He lives very close to my parents, actually, in the west end of Toronto. Shout out to Roncy's Village one time. But he is fired up this season. So I like that you're trying to get a piece of it. Also, you and I have said it a bunch, and we've said it on today's episode. You want a piece of the Avs. You want a piece of the Leafs offense. You want a piece of some of these other top. The LA Kings are putting up regular crooked digits. Red Wings this season. Devils. You want a piece of these elite offenses, and I think that's what you're doing here in Tavares. And to give up, was it DeBrusk and who, sorry?
Lucas Raymond.
I think it's a pretty fair trade.
I think it's fair. I think it's close.
It's close. My only concern is with that keeper dynasty angle is exactly what I was talking about with Tavares, because 2 younger players, you get an older guy. But right now, I would give the edge to Tavares. And I guess it all depends on the breakdown of everything. But if you don't mind, and also very quickly, I was just going to say before I ramble on the bets, shout out to everyone on the comments. Shout out to everyone interacting. I love seeing, hit us with your questions, guys, all day, all night. Steele and I will try and get back to you. Maybe not all night. Maybe that's more of a Steele thing. Big boy over here gets a little sleepy early after a bedtime wobbly pop or two. Anyway, we love the support, and I really do love interacting with you guys. I feel like it makes my fantasy game a lot better. Steele, betting game. You've turned that around. Hit me with some bets, pal.
I'll list them off. I'll rattle all of them off just to get going. First pick of the night, it's easy money. It's hit every single time so far. I'm going to the Bruins on the puck line against the Anaheim Ducks. They've won by more than 2 goals every single game so far this season. Bruins on the puck line for me is the first pick of the night. I'm also going to go to the Maple Leafs game. Leafs and Stars under 6.5 in this matchup.
Steele.
Three out of the last 4, and I believe 6 or 7 out of the last 10.
I got it right here.
3 out of the last 4 have been under the number.
6 of the last 10 as well. You're right.
6 out of the last 10, but 3 out of the last 4 under 6.5. So I'm taking the under in this game. And I'm also going to take the Maple Leafs on the money line against the Dallas Stars. I believe they've won the last 4 of their matchups against the Dallas Stars as well. So that will be my lock of the night.
8 of the last 10 the Toronto Maple Leafs have taken against the Dallas Stars, including the last 5 trips to Big D. You and I have 2 of the same 3 picks tonight, Steele. Lock of the night is the Maple Leafs. Opening line on the money line is also plus money on the Maple Leafs right now, a plus 105, very, very early. That's usually going to shift by puck drop just because of all the Leafs bias, and you're betting on sports books in Ontario. So figure it out, people. I have an honorable mention here because I'm also riding with the under 6.5. My lock of the night is under 6.5. Jake Ottinger on fire. Joseph Woll looking like he's ready to take the crease from Samsonov already. We're not going to throw out the number 1 title, but right now it's Woll's crease to run with. So I'm loving the under as well. Lock of the night is the Leafs. I have an honorable mention here, though, because of how hot Mikko Rantanen has been. Going to go with the Mikko Rantanen anytime assist steal. It might be up to 1.5 because of how many he's been potting lately, but I'm comfortable with that too because the Colorado Avalanche head into the Pittsburgh Penguins, and when I dig up the numbers on Mikko Rantanen in 11 career games against the Pittsburgh Penguins, 10 assists in 11 games. So hit me with Rantanen anytime assist, and if it's 1.5, I'm good with the over as well just because of how hot Colorado is. And my last pick, Steele, is another under. Anaheim at Boston. Lucas Dostal was in the cage the other night. They've been rotating starts, by the way. It's been 50-50, John Gibson and Lucas Dostal, my boy. The Anaheim Ducks are playing some good hockey, and the Boston Bruins are keeping games 3-0 or 3-1 almost every single night, staying under 5.5. I'm going to tease it up a little bit to 6.5 to feel comfortable. Frank Vetrano's scaring me, but I'm really loving that under at 6.5. I'm actually loving all those bet steals, so that's going to catch a parlay as well for me.
Loving the under in that Bruins-Ducks game as well. It's been under the number in every Bruins game too, so we know they're just on a heater right now. I also got to give a shout.
Lights out.
They've been absolutely Jeremy, again, best tandem in the NHL right now. I got to give a quick shout out before we wrap this show up to Jacob Marlett, who sent us a tweet, by the way, and we helped him with a huge payout. Boston Bruins money line, Stars Penguins under 6.5, Golden Knights money line. He added a few more picks for himself, but massive payout for Jacob Marlett. So shout out to you. Thank you so much for tagging us in that post, saying that we helped you out there. We really appreciate that. So continue doing that, everyone out there. Continue tagging us in your pictures on Twitter with your bets, what you're feeling for tonight. And we can help each other out there. So that's what we're trying to do here in the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, making it your first listen every single day. Make sure to tune in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. 7 a.m. Again, 5 days a week. We really appreciate it. Have a great day out there. Good luck with all your bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.